radical. The only thing we have on this side is what's under the radical. So that's isolated. Now we need to take both sides to the same power, which is the index here, which is 2. So we're going to square both sides. Now, for this side, when we square it, we can't just say x squared plus 1 squared. What we have to do is we have to FOIL. So x plus 1 times x plus 1 equals, that all cancels, we get 7x plus 15. So first is x times x, which is x squared. Outer is x times 1, which is x. Inner is 1 times x. And last is 1 times 1. 7x plus 15. Now I'm going to get it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 7x, and subtract 15. If you need to, do this in multiple steps. So I get 0 on this side. I get x squared. I have 2 positives and 7 negative x's. So I end up with negative 5x. 1 minus 15 is negative 14 equals 0. Now I can factor or I can use quadratic formula, whichever is easier. So I'm going to go ahead and use quadratic formula off to the side. So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Remember, you can sing that to the tune of Pop Goes the Weasel. So x equals negative 5 is just 5, plus or minus the square root, negative 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 14 all over 2 times 1. So x equals 5 plus or minus the square root, negative 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 14 is 81 all over 2. So then I get 5 plus or minus 9 over 2. 5 plus 9 is 14, divided by 2 is 7, so x equals 7, or 5 minus 9 divided by 2 is negative 2. So, those are my 2 answers. Because they came out to be integers, I know that I could have factored this as x minus 7 or x plus 2. So if that's the route you wanted to go, you would have also gotten x equals 7 or negative 2. So now we have to check both of those answers. So 7 plus 1 equals the square root of 7 times 7 plus 15. So that's 8 equals the square root of 49 plus 15. 8 equals the square root of 64, which is true. So we know 7 works. Now we plug in negative 2. So negative 2 plus 1 equals the square root of 7 times negative 2 plus 15. So negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. Equals the square root of 7 times negative 2 is negative 14 plus 15. So I get negative 1 equals the square root of 1. Now, a negative number never equals a square root unless there's a negative in front of it. So this one does not work. So we cross out negative 2. And our answer is just x equals 7. So no matter which way you do it, if you do all of the steps, including step 4, you will find that your answer is only 7. Okay. Last one. Example 6. Solve the square root of x plus 2 plus 1 is equal to the square root of 3 minus x. Now, step 1 is to isolate the radical. Problem here is we have two radicals. So, we've isolated one of them over here. So to get rid of that one, we're going to have to square both sides. Okay, so on this side we're going to have to FOIL, and on this side this cancels. So 3 minus x equals, now we FOIL on this side. So I'm going to write that out. Square root of x plus 2 plus 1 times the square root of x plus 2 plus 1. Square root of x plus 2 times the square root of x plus 2, the square roots cancel and we just get x plus 2. Square root of x plus 2 times 1 is the square root of x plus 2. 1 times the square root of x plus 2 is the square root of x plus 2. 1 times 1 is 1, equals 3 minus x. Okay, so we combine like terms. So we have 2 and 1, which makes 3, so x plus 3 plus, and then we have 2 square roots of x plus 2 equals 3 minus x. Now we want to isolate our square root. So I'm going to subtract x and subtract 3. These cancel. This cancels, and we get negative 2x equals 2 square root of x plus 2. So we're trying to get our square root by itself, so I'm going to divide by 2. So I get the square root of x plus 2 equals negative x. Now, to get rid of this radical, I'm going to square both sides. Negative x times negative x is a positive x squared. This side gives me x plus 2. Now I'm going to set it equal to 0, so I'm going to move everything over to one side. So x squared minus x minus 2. And again, we can factor or use quadratic formula. Since 2 only has one set of factors, this one's pretty easy to factor. So x, now I have a negative number, so one's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. I have 2 and 1. And I need them to add to negative 1. So the bigger number has to be negative. So I have x plus 1 and x minus 2 are equal to 0. So x equals negative 1 or positive 2. Now I have to plug them in. So my original equation was the square root of x. So negative 1 plus 2 plus 1 equals the square root of 3 minus x, which is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1, so the square root of 1 plus 1 equals 3 minus a negative 1 makes it 4. So 2, because that's 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, equals 2. So that one works. And now I have to check 2. So the square root of 2 plus 2 plus 1 equals the square root of 3 minus 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. Square root of 4 plus 1 equals the square root of 3 minus 2 is 1. The square root of 4 is 2. 2 plus 1 equals square root of 1 is 1. This says 3 equals 1, which it does not. So positive 2 does not work. So we get x equals negative 1. That is our only answer that works. So that is the one that we stick with. Do not forget step number 4, check your solutions.